Hello everyone, this is the top matchup in the round 10 of the FIDE Grand Swiss tournament. Hikaru Nakamura facing off against Fabiano Caruana. Let's dive into the game. And Hikaru opened up with 1e4, which he has been relying a lot in this tournament. Fabi played e5, knight f3, knight f6. Hikaru brings out his other knight, not allowing any main lines in this position. Knight c6, which is now the 4-knight game. And with d4 comes the Scotch variation of the 4-knight game. Pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn, bishop b4. Knight takes knight, pawn takes knight. Now, with the knights off the board, this variation is kind of like a drawish line. You play this when you want to eliminate all risks. You put a little bit of pressure on black's position due to white's superior pawn structure. Bishop d3, d5, pawn takes pawn. You have 2 or 3 main moves here. You can either take the pawn back or you simply play a move like bishop to g4. But you can also castle because you have a lot of threat against the white king in the center. So, after Fabi castles, the threat of a check in the center is too big, so he castled himself. Pawn takes pawn, h3, a very nice waiting move. Bishop e6, queen f3. And in this position, you can either push your pawn forward 1 square or you push it forward twice, which is what Fabi did, depending on your move. So, he played c5. Rook d1 played, and in this position if Fabi rushes to play c4, you can simply take the pawn and exploit the pin on the d file. So black decides to break the pressure. He gives up the bishop pair just to break the white pawn structure, and after pawn takes, queen a5 immediately, targeting some pawn. But it is not an attack as we will see in the game. Bishop g5. Black cannot take the pawn because after you take the pawn, bishop h7 check will be a nasty surprise for the black queen. So in this game, bishop g5 played, which is met by knight e4. And in this position, the only move is to capture the knight with the bishop. So pawn takes bishop. If white takes the pawn, you can simply take the pawn back and it's just be opposite colored bishop. The queen, the rooks, they will probably get traded off in the near future, and it is very level. So in the game, Hikaru sidesteps. Hikaru played his queen to g3, a big threat if bishop f6 or bishop h6 is played using the g5 pin. So you can go bishop f5, open to on your next move play this move to use the bishop to block the g file. But in this position, Fabi just simply dodged and steps up the g file. a4 played. At first, this is a bit mysterious, but as the game continued, it was useful. Rook e8 played, rook to d6. Now, with the rook on d6, this is slightly restricting the black queen. This is ambitious from Hikaru, arguing that it is hard for black to find a release from the pressure, even if white just wants to move his king on the next move, let's say h king h1, king h2. It is hard to find a move that can improve the position. So let's say you want to force something, you want to force the issue immediately, and you play f6, which is a bold move, a brave move. You can simply bring your bishop back. Now let's say Fabi decides to forcefully trade off rooks by playing rook to d8. There is a very nice tactic lined up here. Rook takes bishop, and after rook takes bishop, there is this very nice move. This is definitely a trick that Hikaru has lined up, and I'm very sure he had this in mind while playing the position. So instead of the f6 I pointed out before, Caruana played h6. and Hikaru retreats his bishop. He chooses rook e7, which is, I feel, is a little bit shaky because the rook is now on a very low square. After a position like rook to e1, he's just in trouble. But Hikaru didn't play rook to e1. He went for a more natural move, queen e3, hitting the e4 pawn and also 6 pawn. Now, Fabi played 8, overprotecting the c6 pawn. But there is a first position here. I will give you a minute to try to figure out what the best move in this position is. If you found the best move, congratulations. The best move in this position is to play bishop e5. Employing a pin here, open down the next move, you take the pawn here on h6. The only move to play is to bring your king forward, and you just simply take the pawn with a check, and maybe pawn to g6, then king to h4 is a nice move too. g5, king back with a check, f5, queen to f3, then rook to g8. But all these are just first move. But Hikaru didn't go for that variation. He decided to go for something a little bit more flashy. You know, the top players, they're like sharks. They smell blood, and when they do smell blood in the water, they have this ability to, you know, deliver some very great plays going forward. So Hikaru played in this position. He played bishop takes pawn, and the idea is that you can't take the pawn back because after you take the pawn back, there is queen check, king side steps, queen check again, king to f8. Now comes queen to f6, and this will either mate you or you be a material down. You will be able to pick up the rook. So Fabi didn't take the bishop. He instead played f6, which wasn't the best move. After f6, Hikaru picks up the pawn on e4. Fabi does the same on c3, and Hikaru created a battery on the d file. Rook to e8, and a brilliant move, rook to d8. Then the only move that continues the game in this position is to play bishop g8, which is what Fabi played. h4 played, which wasn't the best move in the position. The best move in the position would have been to play your queen to g6, which Hikaru probably missed. So after h4, Fabi picks up the c2 pawn. Hikaru played a brilliant move, d3. Now the only move that saves the game again, bishop to h7, and Hikaru continues his vicious attack with the rook on d7. And Fabi tried with g5. Hikaru played g3, queen check, king to h2, queen back to h5, which is a mistake. Though Fabi in this position is playing with seconds on his clock, which is very uncharacteristic of Fabi, because he calculates like a machine. Is very composed. For him to make a blunder like this is very rare. So Hikaru takes on e7, Fabi captures on d8, and now Hikaru brings in his queen. He's looking for a way to divert the attention of the queen. You know, the rook currently is under attack, so if you place a random move like rook to g8, you can simply go in with your rook, and if you try to defend with the queen, then that can cause some threats and everything. So now Fabi gives a check, trading off the rook, the queens, So now Fabi gives a check, trading off the queens, and when the queens are off the table, Hikaru gives a check, trying to play it safe, and here it took on f6. Now the bishop is hanging because if you play a move thinking of the discovered attack on the rook and you decide to save your rook like this, you can simply give a check on, and if it side steps, you can pick up the rook on the next move. So Fabi decided to take the bishop as far away as possible. Hikaru gives a check on g7, king side steps. Hikaru picks up the rook and Fabi takes the rook also. Bishop g5 played and Fabi pushes the pawn forward. Now there is a final trick in this position. Do not take the pawn because it is easier to stop two disconnected pawns, and this might be a draw. And Hikaru just played g4. Then Fabi played c4, and in the next few moves Fabi resigned the game. A very nice win in the end from start to finish. Great opening prep by Hikaru Nakamura, never letting his advantage slip in the game. Nakamura has been under Fabi's skin, just like in the Norway chess in the final round, where Fabi was ahead and Nakamura needed a win to leapfrog him. He played down a theoretical line. He prepared one move deeper than Fabi, and Fabi collapsed like one move later, lost 3 pawns and could basically resign. Lightning striking twice is definitely psychological. Hikaru Nakamura is in his head. Thank you all for watching. Peace and love. Peace and chunks.